Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the presentation of REX Bionics. I'm delighted to see you here today. We make a robotic exoskeleton that enables people with a spinal cord injury or other neurological damage or illness to stand, mobilize, exercise in a way that's not possible, and to address the healthcare implications of being permanently in a wheelchair. I'm joined by Sophie Morgan, who's an independent film producer and TV producer who works with us closely and is willing to demonstrate and talk about our product, and we'll be hearing from her later. We do get a lot of publicity, and there's a lot on YouTube. You can see the channel there referred to, and I'd encourage you to take a look at it. We get visitors to our stands, as you can see, a rather famous one there, talking to Sophie. Picture rather ruined by me, but we can deal with that. Fairly straightforwardly. The disclaimer is obviously a key part of my presentation, and now into what it is that we do. So we're pioneering this concept of robot-assisted physical therapy, or physiotherapy as we call it in the UK. And we read a lot about robotics and big data, and we have a robot. So not only are we able to enable physiotherapists to do something that they either can't or would prefer not to do or could not do very efficiently, which after all is what robots do everywhere. But also our robot, because it is very consistent in its treatment, is able to provide data both on the performance of the robot and on the recovery of the patient for the whole big data theme and the Internet of Things. So we think we're very nicely positioned for two very important macro themes. With our focus on spinal cord injury in the first place, I'm afraid that there are a lot of patients out there in the EU and the US, 500,000 people living with a spinal cord injury as a result of, using a wheelchair as a result of a spinal cord injury. And that's refreshed by, again, sadly, around 12,500 new spinal cord injuries. That's around 100 a day in the EU each and the US. We're also looking at other applications where the physiotherapist is the main treatment of choice. So if you have a stroke, it's very unlikely that after you've had initial medical therapy to stabilize you, it's very unlikely there will be any drug therapy that is available to you. You are simply likely to get physiotherapy. So the fact that this can now be enhanced by a robot and the other things that can go with robotic treatment, like electrical stimulation, leaves this whole field open in neurorehabilitation for more sophisticated medical devices. And you can see it growing week by week. There are other exoskeletons out there. You can see the purpose of the word exoskeleton from the image. There are others out there. Ours is bigger and stronger. It comes at a price premium. And the competitors use crutches to support the patient. So that's fine if you've got a relatively low-level injury, but if you can't use your arms, which is about half the people with a spinal cord injury, then you can't use crutches. That part of the patient population we effectively have to ourselves. We were founded in New Zealand in 2007. There's been a lot of engineering, but now the product is being commercialized. We'll turn over between $500,000 and $1 million in the current year, ending March 16, and we believe we're on our way. I'm the chief executive. I have worked for 20 years or so in medical products of one kind or another. I was chief executive of Biocompatibles previously, and we had 3 product line exits in cancer, contact lenses, and cardiology. So I think we as a management group understand the process of commercialization and value creation. Peter Worrell is also in the audience as well, but we have experienced people both here and in New Zealand and in our non-executive board as well. This is what we're trying to do, both near term and in the long term. In the long term, in the very long term of this chart, we would like to provide a product that can be used all day, every day by people living with a spinal cord injury at an affordable price. So the product itself can't really be used all day. It's got a big battery at the back, which makes it impossible to go to the bathroom during the day. And it's a bit too bulky. If we were at £100,000 per unit to reach every single patient in the world, that would be a £5 billion sales line. And we obviously couldn't manufacture that anytime soon. So we will work our way towards our vision, but we would like it to be an all-day, everyday use at a price of around £20,000 is our target, the price of a small car, which we think is the effective value that you could get from our technology. Nearer term, it's about sales. This year and next year, we feel that with a product launch, we've got to be able to deliver year-on-year, quarter-on-quarter sales growth to demonstrate that people want to buy this product, and we think that we can. We have clinical trial data later this year. It's actually the second interim results that you will hear, and the start of a stroke trial takes us into a new therapeutic area. But in the end, I think we accept as a board that the most likely thing is that a large company will want to acquire this business. They are always short of new technology, of sales growth, and I think that it is possible, indeed probable, that we will get an offer that we can't refuse, in which case we won't refuse it. There are two market segments. Firstly, the professional segment, where we have 500 neurological rehabilitation units in the US and the EU. I said a moment ago, 500,000 odd people living with spinal cord injury. If we only get 1% of the market, that is a $700 million opportunity. And why might we get this? Well, partly because of the improvement in function, but also partly because 30% of this patient population are hospitalized annually with complications arising directly from their spinal cord injury. But even that is dwarfed by the amount of strokes that happen. Obviously, as cardiovascular disease recedes as being a cause of death in the Western world, cancer, Alzheimer's, stroke all increase in terms of their prevalence. So this, unfortunately, is a growing population base. And is there money for it? Well, there's a $2 billion spent on powered wheelchair. So I don't think it's impossible to see at least some of that transitioning into robotic exoskeletons. I talked a moment ago about the importance of the neuro rehab clinician. They respond to clinical data, scientific research, publications. And here are two publications that make that point. Firstly, that standing and taking exercise in an upright position is extremely important to people with spinal cord injuries who have greater complications as a result of the use of the wheelchair. And a new paper coming out recently saying the robotic-assisted therapy has the potential to offer those things that you see there. So in this professional segment, the body of opinion is developing. So we did a clinical trial, and the first interim results were outstanding. The first question is, was the user able to get up and complete a 40-minute cycle of exercises? And the treatment success was 95%. I would have been happy with anything better than 50%, so 95% was great. And were there any treatment-related adverse events? The answer was none at all. So this is very, very good data considering the level of injury that we're dealing with. And the feedback from patient questionnaires were also extremely positive. The questions are all phrased positively, so a green agreement is a good thing. And you can see overwhelmingly the response was positive, and the one I like best is right in the middle. I would like to use REX on a weekly basis. 95% of patients agreed with that. So I think that does speak to the size of the opportunity and the extent of support from the user groups. We used an independent US consultancy firm called Navigant just to validate some of the aspects of our business plan. They looked in particular at stroke and traumatic brain injury. Stroke obviously is an internally engendered injury where a bleed on the brain or a blockage causes swelling that is compressed by the skull and causes damage to the brain. And a traumatic brain injury is damage to the brain because of a smash from the outside. But the symptoms are largely, and the consequences are largely exactly the same. And you can see that these neuro rehab doctors see the value here as well, even though the data is primarily at the moment in spinal cord. Our marketing strategy is absolutely essential. We need to find the patients, particularly on the right-hand side, who are interested in acquiring REX as a home use product, to bake, to paint, to fix people's cars, where you can do it more easily standing up. And by standing up, not only do what you want to do, but to take exercise. On the left-hand side is the professional setting where the clinic will work with the patient in the REX to exercise. So here are three examples of the use of REX in the home setting, but rather than read that out, Nobody can talk to this more credibly than Sophie, so I'll hand over to her for a moment or two. And she is about to have emergency miking up.
Is that on? Can everybody hear? Oh, yes, we're on. Hi, I'm Sophie. So, yes, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and why I use REX. I've been using REX for about a year now. I was injured in a car crash when I was 18. So to explain for those of you who don't know about spinal cord injury, there are various types of spinal cord injury, but the injury I have is called a complete injury. So from the level of where the damage was, which was just in the middle of my spine, which is called the T6 vertebrae, I have from that level down, no movement and no sensation. So I haven't been able to essentially stand ever since, and I can't feel or move as well. So I was introduced to REX, and as you might imagine, I was really excited to give it a go. And it has been possibly one of the most transformative and life-changing pieces of equipment I can even begin to describe to you how it has helped me. So firstly, I use REX at home, and Crispin's explained a little bit about how we like REX to be used. But for me, I sit at home with it and I get into it. So I transfer across into the device, which I've been demoing earlier, and I'll talk to you about later if you'd like to have a look at it. It's on the stand. So I get into the device and strap up. And once I'm in, I've got a little joystick. It's incredibly easy to use. And I do a number of different things in the device. I like to exercise. I call them REXercises. So I do weights, or I'll do a bit of yoga. I do various stretches that I wouldn't be able to do very easily in my chair, but I'm also benefiting from actually standing whilst I'm doing those actual exercises. So I'm getting the kind of double whammy, as it were, from the benefits of standing up and also just being able to exercise fully. I like to try and describe it as if you've ever been on a long haul flight and at the very end of it you get up and you have a stretch, times that by, I've been in the chair 13 years, and that's how good it felt, and that's how good it feels every single day to get into REX. But there's not only obviously the physical benefits of standing, there's also the benefits that come from moving around. And I mean, it's hard to describe, but little things like the spasms that I might get as a result of sitting down a lot, secondary complications like urinary tract infections that are prevalent with people who have to sit down all the time. It's really common sense. I think you can kind of understand if you sit down a lot, it's not good for your body. So all the things that come along with that, you know, are sort of dealt with by being up in REX every day. But then there's also the emotional side of it, the sort of psychological side of actually standing up again and interacting with people eye to eye, seeing my friends. I do a lot of hugging. It's incredibly liberating. And I can talk about it till my head drops off. So if anyone does have any questions, I'll be at the stand afterwards.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sophie. And I think that that speaks volumes, obviously, and is a critical part of our product development cycle. Every user of REX is different, has different needs, and we need to listen closely to them because the perception of people who don't use a wheelchair is very, very skewed. I'm going to gallop through to the end now. A very important part of our business strategy is obviously who's going to pay for it. The NHS isn't particularly a target. They tend to be a slightly late adopter of new technology on a global basis. So our main focus in the near term is the US and China. But we're very interested in the UK where there is a personal injury claim because that means a personal injury insurance company will pay. And we've had a couple of claims now. We've got more coming through the pipeline and we see that as a very big opportunity. We work with distributors who are experienced in calling on the neuro rehab doctors and we want to keep our selling costs variable, at least for a little while. We can go direct in due course, but right now I think our priority is on marketing and commercialization on a global scale rather than employing reps to make the call. But you can see on the right-hand side the type of products that our reps carry. We get lots of publicity. And that's an important part of what we do. It brings in the personal user. I had an inquiry from Palo Alto, California today. When I wake up each day on my phone, there tends to be a new inquiry coming through. Now, at £80,000, a lot of those go away when we tell them the price. But there is significant interest in this product. And I think people in the company, I know that people in the company, and I know a lot of our investors, feel motivated that they're part of something that's important and valuable. Here are some near-term milestones, particularly the start of the stroke trial, the first patient in a US trial for an extension to the labelling, further data from that trial I showed you earlier, and the launch in China, all are coming up in the next 15 months or so. And I think those are important contributors to the process of building value. We have been burning around £4 million a year, so the likelihood is that we will need to do another fundraising. We need to be open about that, but we are well supported by our shareholders and are obviously optimistic we can get that done. Why now? Well, we've got those 2016 milestones coming along. And we think we're aiming for something significant in the long term. This, my last slide, shows the way in which Intuitive Surgical, with their concept of robot-assisted surgery, provides a nice analogue for robot-assisted physiotherapy. Yes, it takes a little while to get established, but they've got to a $5 billion market cap through a similar concept, doing something with a robot that is better done that way than by a human in the field of medicine. And that's the kind of trajectory that we're looking at to deliver in REX Bionics as well. Thank you very much indeed.